So this set of notes is on 3 different types of angle pairs. Okay, so the first one is adjacent angles, and the word adjacent just means next to. So these are really going to be 2 angles that are next to each other. So you can think of them as 2 angles that share a vertex and a side. So they have to share both things to be considered adjacent. So a vertex and a side. So for angle 1 here, I'm going to color in red, and angle 2, I'll color in green, and we'll see if they're adjacent or not. So if this is angle 1, here for this one, and this is angle 2, they are going to be adjacent. They share the vertex right here, and they share this side right here. So these are adjacent. This next pair, here's angle 1, and here's angle 2. Now, they do share a vertex right here, but they don't share a side. I can see the 2 sides of 1 are over here, and the 2 sides of number 2 are over here. They are not going to be adjacent. The next pair, so again I have angle 1 is there in red, angle 2 is in green, and just like the pair before it, they do share a vertex, but they don't share a side. So those are not adjacent. Down here I have angle 1 and angle 2. Oh, that was terrible. See if I can do that any better. A little bit. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 2 do not share a vertex, however they do share this side, but you need to have both, so that is not adjacent. Here, angle 1 and angle 2, they are going to be adjacent. So here's their shared vertex, and here's their shared side. So yes, those are adjacent. And finally, my last pair here, angle 1 and angle 2. And again, just like a previous pair, they don't share a vertex, but they do share a side. But no, they are not adjacent. So we only have 2 adjacent angles here, these 2. So just remember, if you're dealing with adjacent angles, they have to share a vertex and a side. So they have to be right next to each other, touching, because their sides have to share. Okay, so a linear pair, we've actually already dealt with a linear pair, but I want to give you the definition. So they are adjacent angles, so they have to be next to each other. Adjacent angles whose 2 sides form a line. Okay, so since we're dealing with adjacent angles, if you look on the previous slide, these are our only options. Okay, these are adjacent. So, out of these adjacent angles, since that's what we have to look at, do either of them form a line? Well, this one does not. That's not a line. But this one does. Here's the line. So since they come together and form a line, they're called a linear pair. And you can see the word line right in there. They make a line. Okay, so not only are they going to form a line, you've already dealt with these and solved some problems with these. We know that these 2 angles are going to add up to 180. So all the time, linear pairs are going to equal 180 degrees. So again, you've dealt with linear pairs before, we just never called them a linear pair. But just remember, linear pair, line. That's what you have to worry about. Okay? And the last one. Vertical angles. Vertical angles are 2 angles share a vertex and whose sides form two lines. Okay, two lines. So first of all, we have to look for angles that share a vertex. So ones that share a vertex, we have these here, these here, these here, and these here. The other two do not share a vertex. So now we have to look for two lines. This is not two lines, this is not two lines, this is not two lines, but this one is. I have the one line here and the one line here. So I have two lines, so this is the only pair of vertical angles. Okay, so again, the angles we're looking at is this side and this side. Those two angles are vertical angles. Okay, so we're going to talk about the relationship in just a little bit. But this next slide has 5 different angles. Now remember, we're talking about pairs. So they're all going to come in pairs of 2. And we have to figure out, are they adjacent? Are they a linear pair? Are they vertical? Okay, so let's look at my first pair, 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are these two right here. Okay, so you can even trace along them if you want, 1 and 2. And I'm going to try to do this in all different colors, but it's going to get a little messy, but I'll try. So 1 and 2 we'll do here in purple. Okay, so are they adjacent? Yes, they are. They share a vertex and a side, so letter A. Are they a linear pair? Yes, they are. Their other sides form a line. Are they vertical? No, they're not, because they don't form two lines, just one line. Okay, so now let's look at 2 and 5. So here's 2, and here's 5. Are they adjacent? No, they're not. They don't share a side. And they can't be linear if they're not adjacent, because remember, linear pairs have to be adjacent, so it can't be linear. Are they vertical? Yes, they are, because they form two lines. They would form this whole line here and this whole line here. So yes, they are vertical. 3 and 4. So 3 and 4. Are they adjacent? Yes, they are, because they share a vertex and they share a side. Are they linear? No, they don't form a line anywhere, and so they're not vertical either, because they certainly don't form two lines if they don't form one, so they're just adjacent. Now, 3, 4, and 5. I already know they're nothing, because we're talking about angle pairs. So we're talking about two angle pairs, could be adjacent, could be linear, could be vertical, and they're not going to be any of those 3, because there's 3 of them. So they're nothing. So I'll just write none here. Okay, 1 and 4. So 1 is this big angle here, and 4 is this angle here. So are they adjacent? No. They do share a vertex, but not a side. Are they a linear pair? No, because they're not adjacent, so they certainly don't form a line. And their sides do not form two lines either. So even though it looks like maybe you're thinking they might be vertical, they're not. They don't create two lines. They do create this one line, if I'm looking at the orange, but then this one goes up this way and this one goes straight down. So that's not going to be a second line. So actually 1 and 4 are also none of these. Okay, I hope this isn't getting too jumbled, but let's look at 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 are adjacent. They do share a vertex and a side. They are not linear because they don't form a line, and they're not vertical either. Okay, 3 and 5. I'm running out of colors here. Let's try blue. So 3 and 5. Okay, so 3 and 5 are not adjacent. They don't share a vertex and a side. They do share a vertex, but not a side. They are not going to be linear because they're not adjacent, and they're not vertical because they don't form two lines, so they're actually nothing. Okay, last ones, 1 and 5. Let's just stick with black. So 1 and 5. And I know it's getting hard to see with all of these colors, but 1 and 5, yes, they are going to be adjacent. And yes, they actually form a line. They form this line right here. Okay, so they are going to be a linear pair, but they are not going to be vertical because they just form one line, not two. Okay? So if you ever see this on a test or a worksheet or anything, I would just outline the pair and then erase it before you go to the next pair. Okay, but remember, adjacent are right next to each other. They share a vertex and a side. Linear pairs are adjacent, so they share the vertex and the side, and they make a line. And then vertical angles share a vertex and make two lines. Now, let's talk about their relationships, okay, on what they equal. We already know that linear pairs are equal to 180 degrees. So if I look at 1 and 3 here, they make a linear pair. If I just ignore this for a moment and just look here, they make this line. Okay, so they're going to equal 180 degrees. So 1 and 3, so 1 plus 3 is going to equal 180 degrees. Okay, I can also see that 1 plus 4 is going to equal 180 degrees. They also make a line here. So those two together is going to equal 180 degrees. But now 1 and 2 are going to end up being congruent. They're going to be equal to each other. Okay, so vertical angles are always congruent to each other. And we can go back and write that. Okay, vertical angles are going to be equal. So just like linear pairs always equal 180 degrees, vertical angles are always equal. So 2 and 3, if they're next to each other, they add up to 180. 2 and 4, they're next to each other, they add up to 180. 3 and 4 are across from each other, they're going to be congruent. Okay? So if you have vertical angles like this, so I have two lines, that means that 1 and 2 are vertical, 3 and 4 are vertical, and the other 4 form linear pairs. Okay, so vertical linear pairs and vertical. Okay, so vertical angle is always congruent, linear pairs add up to 180. So if I know this is 125, I know this also has to be 125 degrees. Now, to find these, I'm going to subtract from 180 because these equal 180, or these equal 180, or these two equal 180, or these two equal 180. All four of those linear pairs add up to 180. So if I just subtract, that gives me 55 degrees. So my other two are going to be 55 degrees. They're going to be equal. Okay, so vertical angles, the ones across from each other, are always equal. And then linear pairs, the ones next to each other, are going to add up to 180. Okay, so you go ahead, pause the video, and try to answer these questions. Okay, so there should be your answers. So if you have two lines like this, okay, vertical angles, the ones across from each other are always congruent. The ones next to each other equal 180. And then down here, again, you did this already when we were dealing with angle addition. If they make a line, they're going to add up to 180. So you should subtract from 180 to get your missing angle. Okay? If you have any questions, please ask, or you can rewatch this video. But if you need anything, let me know.